Hey guys, welcome to Spoiler Zone. I'm your host, Vaughn Fry. This week I'm going to be looking at Rise of the Planet of the Apes, The Last Airbender, and commenting on independent cinema in America. So let's begin with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I've already done my written review, my video review. I've reviewed it. So I'm going to just kind of do a little bit of ranting about some things that, I don't know, maybe didn't sit well with me. Chief point here, apes talking. Okay, Caesar is able to talk. He starts out with just no, and maybe that's not reaching too far. It sort of depends. I was in an audience with a bunch of older folks, people who probably were there because they were fans of Charlton Heston. And when CGI Caesar says no, everybody was like having a tough time dealing with it. And later on in the movie, he says, like, Caesar is home, right at the end. His vocabulary is limited. I didn't feel, though, that the movie had given Caesar this ability and for him to have earned it just yet. So, talking is a little bit of a problem with me. It seems like an evolution step more than a intellectual step. So it's really not that big of a deal, but it's something that deserves to come up. Another thing, the CGI stuff, okay? I felt that in the scenes where you had just Caesar and he's in a real environment, those looked all right. I knew that Caesar was fake. I could tell, from half a mile out that this is not a real chimpanzee. He's really quite tall and muscular. He's like a miniature Bigfoot, really. I don't really have a problem with the art design. The apes in the first movie did not look authentic either. They look really good in the Marky Mark movie, but the weird thing is I'm watching Marky Mark's Planet of the Apes, and their facial expressions are quite limited, actually. Some of the actors can move their brows, some of them can't, and they're just sort of stuck. And they also can't turn their neck very far, so you'll see a lot of people just mostly looking straight forward, as much so as possible. But the fur looks real. All the aesthetics to it are quite pleasing. In this movie, the trade-off works well for what Rise of the Planet of the Apes consists of in the plot. The one action scene that really stands out is the first attack against a human, and that's like when John Lithgow, he's getting into the Mustang, and the guy comes out and he's all angry, and then Caesar jumps in and attacks this guy in a fashion that is not seen in any of the other Planet of the Apes films throughout the whole franchise. If you look back at even the more recent Marky Mark edition, the cutting is so slow, and there's no frantic pacing to even the last battle compared to what was going on with the ninja-like reflexes and skills of Caesar in this movie. Probably not the most realistic thing, but it makes for a compelling narrative. So, trade-off. The monkeys don't look real, but they're ninjas. I'm going to have to go with ninjas. So that's my thoughts on Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I also, unfortunately, watched The Last Airbender. This is a movie with, production problems left and right. And I have not even seen, or I've only vaguely heard of, the cartoon on Nickelodeon. I mean, come on, I haven't watched Nickelodeon since, 97, okay? So I'm really out of the loop there, but there's just so much wrong with this movie. I had to jot down some things, so forgive me. I've got to look at my phone. The first thing that really caught my attention was the voiceover. The voiceover narrative stuff is not working in this movie. The narrator is this girl in the film, and yeah, I didn't go to the liberty of trying to remember everybody's name. But she says something like, "So, Ong took us to his village." And then in the very next shot, she says, "So, what's your name?" And I'm like, whoa, as the narrator, you just dropped the bomb on the name already. We probably don't need this scene. This is stupid. There was something even worse than that earlier, where in a special effect, she makes this bubble of water. She bends water. They're calling everything that moves, it's bending, okay? And she drops it on her brother, and he gets up, and he's got a fur-lined jacket that is obviously untouched by water, okay? Because it's not clinging together or nothing. It's completely absurd, to be honest with you. The character development occurs in the voiceover. Oh, my brother and the princess really hit it off. Like, that's the limitation to it. You know, you can only progress as a character if the narrator said that's what you did. So, your development is clearly defined by not the actions, but by verbal, direct communication from the narrator. Why don't they just say, "Hi, this is so-and-so of the Fire Nation, obviously the bad guys." Why don't they just say it like that instead of having them, you know, actually do something bad? Now, wouldn't that just be even more lame? Just shoot for the moon, really go for it, M. Night? The acting is absolutely atrocious, and it just kind of gets worse the younger the cast members are. I think what appears to have happened is, like, M. Night lost his hearing, so he's deaf, okay? And he had no idea that they weren't delivering the lines correctly. That's my best explanation as to how these lines, these takes, got into a finished Hollywood film. There's no comedy. There's, like, no attempt at a comedic character of any kind. Just, in a movie as absurd as this, there needs to be some humor. There needs to be somebody in there to relieve the audience from all the fake tension, you know, because the other thing is, like, there's no sense of adventure. They're hopping around rather freely from place to place, but when they get into a fight, it's almost like they have a designated fighting lair or pit where the fight has to take place. No one chases, no one flees and gets into kind of like perils, like nothing builds up. So, like, anything that anybody has to square off, it's like they're stepping into an arena in Mortal Kombat, and they're like, the fight has to be here, and it's going to be in one take, and I'm just going to stand as still as I can and throw stuff at you, and the audience is going to be memorized by this. So yeah, just go for it. And that's really the way the fighting works. So if you're not even going to get complex fighting to go into it so that someone has something to look at and be like, well, at least the fighting worked out or was exciting. No, it wasn't, because everybody just stood in, like, one spot and cast spells. That kind of what it comes down to. Well, as far as the visual effects, I think that, you know, aside from what I mentioned with the water, the special effects are serviceable. I mean, it looks like a big budget Hollywood movie that would premiere in the summer time. It doesn't look like one of the best ever, that's for sure. And the people are so stale and bland and everything. I know that everyone really hates this movie. I think I give it like a 1.5 stars, and the half star is coming from just... I mean, I can't even really be sure. It's more about what's not in the movie, okay? I realize that I suppose they mispronounced some characters' names, or they changed them to make them sound more like they originate from the East. And yeah, it seems kind of racist how there's a bunch of white people who, you know, like, there'll be a tribe of, like, basically Eskimos, and the only important Eskimos are the white ones. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem, I would say. I mean, yeah, sure, that's happening, but it's not the brain-hurting kind of logic that I've seen out of something that I would give 1 star and 1 star alone. Like, 1 star, Eat, Pray, Love. okay? It's about a woman who is so caught up in herself she has to like pray to God to make her leave her husband, who is a nice guy. That's how horrible Julia Roberts' character is. And she's supposed to be the one you're rooting for. So, yeah, The Last Airbender, I give it a 1.5 stars. I've been watching a lot of stuff for the Tallgrass Film Festival here in Wichita. I take home probably about 6 or 7 movies a week, and on Saturdays I go in and we watch a few, sometimes shorts, features, whatever. A lot of times it's documentaries. When it comes to independent cinema, most people aim for the documentary. Documentaries are doable. You don't have to hire actors. Hiring actors who are good is expensive, unless you're M. Night. Then you can hire actors who are bad, and it's still expensive. Point is, you cannot, and I can't stress this enough, you or I or anyone you know, unless you're one of my celebrity friends watching this, you can't make a feature film. It's just not going to work out. It's too expensive. You have to rely on too many favors. You can't get that many favors in a lifetime. It just does not work out. What I would suggest that you do, if you're really passionate about documentary or narrative cinema, particularly if you really want something that's like the fictive feature that you're used to seeing at the Cineplex, what I would suggest you do is focus on building a great, stellar short film. And I've seen people advise against this, saying that short films are dead, okay? They're wrong. Only rich people can afford to play the feature film game. If you're interested in films, go for the short. You can manage that. It may be more expensive than you think it's going to be, but if you know what you're doing, you get the right people with you, you can manage it. And if the right people see it, which anything good floats to the top. People are going to put it in, you submit it to a festival, it's going to get played, okay? And the right people are going to watch it, and then that's where you really make your money, is the next time around. You get the studio on board to think, hey, we want to be a part of your next project. How about this? That's what you got to do. You don't, people come up with this dream that, yeah, the studio is going to buy my crappy movie and play it in movie theaters. How often does that happen, honestly? Probably about once every 10 years. So it recently happened with Paranormal Activity. That got in theaters, so don't count on it happening anytime soon, because like the time before that, what was it? What are we looking at? Blair Witch Project? You have a better chance of winning the lottery. You have like, your whole neighborhood could win the lottery before your movie gets picked up and ran nationwide in theaters, okay? You just do not have the production value to be able to handle it. Only certain genres work, and it doesn't work every time, okay? So get your act together with a short, impress the right people with it, then shoot for the moon. And that's all I got to say about that.